Good morning, team. Thanks for joining us today. This is Brad Hamilton coming to you from Kansas City, running with Koach Karl today. My purpose is to inspire and empower others to get the most from themselves by providing the support and encouragement they need. So our special guest today is Koach Karl. He's got a decorated past in sport, the Marines. To Karl's credit, he has finished the Badwater Ultra Marathon twice, and to put that into perspective, you have a 6.5 times higher likelihood meeting somebody who has summited Mount Everest than you are meeting someone who has finished the Badwater Ultra Marathon, 135 miles through Death Valley in July. And Karl has finished this amazing event twice. So welcome, Karl. So
good morning.
Yeah. So we're out here running on the streets of Kansas City, and of course talking about leadership powered by kindness. Karl is an industry leader, training people to do amazing events, and I'd like to get his perspective on some of this. We talk a lot about the rubber hitting the road and making sure that we're being our authentic selves and leaders in our industry. One of the questions I have for Karl is how does exercise play into leadership, and as I've discussed on multiple occasions, that line in the song, lead a life worth following?
Well, I did kind of think about this when I heard it the first time. My leadership and my fitness journey started when I was 17 and went to boot camp for the Marine Corps. And I was a chubby kid who could barely run around the block. But I'd always wanted to serve my country. And so I went to boot camp, and this was 79, post-Vietnam. So let's be real frank here. This is where they still beat the hell out of you if you screwed up. You know, now they give you a sucker, a lollipop. But we'd go for a run. Our drill instructors take us out, and if you didn't make the run and stay with the group, there was some humiliation and punishment to go along with it. And keep in mind, like I said, I was just a chubby kid. Athletic wise, I know it sounds weird because of my height, I played very good basketball. But other than that, that's about it. Just a bit of trivia to kind of show you what kind of weirdo I was. I was 5th in the state of Missouri yo-yo champion. I'm still proud of that. Anyway, so
that's a good one.
Yeah, my wife finds it very amusing. So anyway, the first time I fell out, I made it the first couple of times. The first time, let's get up on the sidewalk here. This is narrow. The first time I fell out of a run, I experienced that humiliation. They put us in what we called the classroom, and that's where we did most of our book studies as far as histories of wars and things like that, and military conduct. But after a run, it was a discipline area. And if you fell out of a run, you were doing burpees, planks, flutter kicks, All why the drill instructor walks by, kicks you in the gut, pours water on, total humiliation. Now, a lot of people will find that, oh, just horrible. I did not. It was motivating. And why was it motivating? Because I swore to myself that would never happen again. And it didn't. And it wasn't because I all of a sudden got in better shape. I got in better mental shape.
Yeah.
Because we can make ourselves do things that we think are impossible. And that's kind of what started it with me. And I also saw my drill instructors and said, I want to be that guy. And so my Marine Corps career was nothing more than being the best Marine I could be, setting the best example. And that included a huge level of fitness. And I became a sergeant in 28 months, which if anyone's ever been in the Marine Corps knows that that's almost an impossibility. I was the youngest sergeant in the Marine Corps at the time. I was 20 years old.
Wow.
And I did it basically by doing everything I'm supposed to do. That's all you do. That's how you're successful at anything.
Yep.
Doing what the format says. Now, we can vary and have our own ideas. There's nothing wrong with that. Believe me, Brad will tell you, I've come up with schedules and put my own little twist on it, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
But it always usually hurts.
It's usually painful because I'm like, how can we make this harder? Because the harder we training, the easier your race is going to be.
Yep.
But anyway, so that's where I took off with that and became a sergeant in the Marine Corps. And a little story here. I don't know how much time we have, but I can talk once we get going.
We're good.
When I was a platoon sergeant, it used to infuriate me when my troops, and we were all young, you have to keep in mind that most people join the Marine Corps 18, 19, 20. When they got their wisdom teeth pulled, they got 3 days no duty. And that used to piss me off. I'm like, you guys don't need no duty, you can work. And so it was my turn. And at this time I was a young married guy living off base, and we didn't have a car, so I ran to work. It was 9 miles, and I ran home. And I had never heard of a marathon, a triathlon, or anything like that. That wasn't my point. It's like, well, I can do this, I gotta do this. You know, we can't afford a car.
Yep.
This is what I'm gonna do. And this was in 29 Palms, the Mojave Desert, my first duty station. So anyway, it was my time to get my wisdom teeth pulled out. So what did I do? I told all my troops, I said, be at my house at a certain time. They pulled my wisdom teeth, I put my running gear on and ran 9 miles home right after I had my wisdom teeth pulled.
Oh, wow.
Now, looking back, boy, that was stupid.
Yeah.
But I proved my point. And fortunately, and if anyone knows about the Navy or the Marines, I had a corpsman that was a next door neighbor. Those were our doctors for the Marine Corps. And fortunately, I had a corpsman because when I got home, I couldn't stop the bleeding. I was just bleeding profusely out of my mouth. But I proved that you don't need to go to bed.
Yeah.
And so that's always been my type of mentality of like, if someone says you can't do something, I'm like, well, no, you can. And you know, as you can see today, we're trudging along and going slow. I've always believed anyone can do anything that someone else does. You just got to put the work in that they've done. Now, when I do stuff, I can do that, but I'm always slower than everybody else and dragging behind. So, and to the answer to your question, leadership by example to me is the best leadership there is.
Yeah.
Now in the Marine Corps, we had the authoritarian leader and the persuasive leader, and I like to do a combination of both. And you know, I mentioned the times that I was in. You know, I smacked around a few privates just like every other sergeant in that era, but there were also people that you had to kind of look towards their intellect, because some people it doesn't matter, you know. So you've got to be able to discern which of your people are motivated by you persuading them or kicking them in their ass, metaphorically.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, all right, get off your ass, let's get going, and quit being a pussy.
That's right.
Or it's like, all right, listen, Bob, we've got 2 more miles.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? The difference
Sure.
in that, because there are people that are motivated in different ways. My wife, it's best just to walk in front of her and tell her to follow you, because you try to give her any advice in a 50-mile or an Ironman, she didn't want to hear it. She's like, I've done the training, you've told me what to do. You know,
Right.
I'm like, all right, and it works for her.
Yeah.
You know, for me to say, all right, honey, come on, let's go. And she's like, would you shut up? You know, she's like, I'm not one of your troops, you know.
Yeah.
Or I'm not one of your clients. And there are some people that are like that.
Yep.
You've got to be able to discern how to motivate an individual, not a group.
Yeah.
Now you have to have, in the Marine Corps, you had to have groupthink, you know. But in general, I had people, if I saw them falling by the wayside, I had to figure out what's going to motivate them.
Yeah.
And that's where you've got to try different avenues. And that's where your personality comes into play. But throughout my military career and my fitness career, setting the example
Yeah.
is the key, in my opinion. You know, people could disagree. And
Well,
take us.
yeah, I've noticed that every workout you give me is typically something you've experimented with and had luck with. It's never
Yes.
been, well, except for maybe one
Except
occasion.
except for the main one.
Yeah.
So
No, other than that, yeah, then yeah, you've experimented with it. You've
but
found,
I was honest with you.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
straight up. Yeah.
so I think setting an example, because from a leadership standpoint, particularly in the military, but also in the civilian world, you can't ask someone to do something that you wouldn't do yourself.
Yeah.
I've never understood that.
Right.
It used to make me mad when my son played football that his coaches were like 100 pounds overweight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why would they listen to you?
Yeah.
You know, just because you're older doesn't mean you have to be out of shape.
Right.
So anyway,
Yeah.
so that's my takeaway from all these years, is setting the example. It's like the little challenges I do for my birthday and stuff like that, excuse me, is to show people, it doesn't matter how old you are,
Yeah.
you set a goal, you can accomplish it if you're diligent.
Right.
So that's my thing. And
Well, and that's where you're saying that also is like your follow through. We go out there, kind of like you're saying right now, we're trudging through. We've got our mindset, how far we're going to go. We're going to get that done no matter what it takes today.
Right.
And I think that plays a lot into that leadership you're talking about too, because leading by example, you got to be able to finish what you started. You got to be able to, even though it's going to be tough, and like you said, training for a race, if you're going to put in the hard work on the front end and build that muscle memory, that way when you get into the race, you're prepared, all that stuff.
yeah, it's and again, it goes back to, you know, I think I shared with you, I may have shared with another friend, when I did my 4th of July event, you know, running 4 days. That second day, I wanted to quit, because honestly I was not prepared for it. But I knew that, and people don't take this to heart, but I knew I could fake 15 miles a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I knew I was capable of running 15 miles every day
Right.
for 4 days, but I knew it wasn't going to be pretty.
Yeah.
But that second day, I got heat exhaustion, lightheaded, dizzy, all kinds of stuff. And 5 miles into it, I was like, you know, I really want to stop. And I thought about my daughter, my youngest, Anna Marie. She's just started doing fitness stuff. She finished the High Rocks, and she's done a half marathon. And I said, I've always told her never to quit,
Yep.
no matter how hard it is. So that's what kept me going.
That's awesome.
And I just told my running partner, Bill, who you've met,
Yep.
I said, here's the deal. Today is just going to be a long, slow, drug out 15 miles. I said, I want you to go on And he's like, well, no. He says, we're doing this together. And so that kind of set the stage for a good day that could have been crap.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where having a good training partner really helps, you know.
Yep.
But again, it goes back to setting the example.
Yep.
And my daughter wouldn't have said, Dad, you know, why'd you quit? She would have been, are you okay?
Uh-huh.
But in the back of her mind, if she's struggling, she's like, well, Dad stopped.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm just not gonna have that precedent.
Yeah.
If I can help it. Now, we've all had those events where medically we just couldn't go on.
Sure.
That's a whole different story. But if you're just tired, you're a little lightheaded, boo-hoo, you know? You just regroup. Well, actually right here, this is what I was doing. My last mile, I was like, you know,
right.
on this very hill coming up it, you know,
Wow.
it was, but I just grinded it out and made
Yeah.
it happen. And that's the beauty of having your own events. There's no cutoff times and stuff like that.
That's
you
true.
know?
Yeah.
So,
well, and you know, talking about honor and setting that example for her, and think about the sense of accomplishment when you do finish, and the confidence that's built, knowing in your head that you have what it takes to finish what you started.
absolutely.
That's huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I felt better for it, but at the time I didn't.
Yeah.
And I paid for it all week. The rest of the week was just horrible.
Yeah.
But again, I just finished it and got it done. And sometimes, you know, when you're feeling like that, and as you know, when you have cutoff times, sometimes you just don't make the cutoff time. And that's just one of those things, you know. But when I do this stuff on my own, I don't do cutoff times or anything like that for people. You know, we'll wait for the last person to come in. It doesn't matter if they're an hour after everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, if I can get them to grind out a hard event, I'm gonna be there for them, you know.
Yep.
So
That's awesome. Well, I'm
that was
gonna.
a long answer, wasn't it?
No, it's very good, and I'm gonna shut this and maybe move into another video just to make sure we close it out in
Okay.
case we've got battery issues. But
Excellent.
I think that we're good. So, thanks for joining us today, gang. Part one of what may become a couple here. So, have a great day. Here we go.